All right, what's up, everybody? Miss Lynch here. This is the second half of Chapter 8's lecture, okay? Okay, so the last thing I had said was, oh yeah, we left off talking about the spheres, okay? So public sphere is everything outside of the house, and in the 1790s, politics becomes part of that, right? The private sphere is the home, anything to do with the family, okay? So there's the division of gender roles in those spheres, which we've talked about. And I ended off with the discussion about rights of women and their role in the public sphere, okay? So in the political realm, okay? So that takes us to so everything we've been talking about, this is under George Washington's presidency, and now we are getting into John Adams, okay? So, first slide I'm going to look at is the Adams presidency. Okay, the election of 1796. So John Adams is elected, Thomas Jefferson is elected as vice president, okay? And last time we had talked about the French Revolution was going on, and it led to a lot of debate in the U.S. about, do we support that, do we not? And that is really what creates this party division and creates the Federalists and the Republicans, okay? So, back to France is my long-winded way of saying all that. So we have what is known as the XYZ affair. This was a situation in which bribes with French officials were made public. When they were made public, there were 3 of them, and they were referred to as X, Y, and Z, okay? So that is known as the XYZ affair. And then there is a quasi-war going on with France, which ended in 1800 with the peace treaty. So the XYZ affair, my accent came out real hard. Okay, the XYZ affair is part of this quasi-war, okay? This time is also referred to as the Reign of Witches, okay, because of a limit on civil liberties that comes about, especially in regards to freedom of press. Last time we talked about 1790s, there are 100 printing presses or newspapers in the United States, and by, I forgot what year it ended on with that specific example, 1810, I think, it's up to 400. Okay, but so with that rise in freedom of press, printing publications, there's then an attack on it, okay? Okay, so this reign, if you will, brought freedom of expression to the center of discussion of liberty, all right? Or the discussion about liberty, I should say. Okay, so we're up to 1800. And this will take us to what is known as the Revolution of 1800, okay? So Thomas Jefferson defeated John Adams, in the 1800 election. And we will then see a constitutional crisis emerge. We'll get into that. But so this happens beginning in 1800, and Adams' acceptance of defeat established the vital precedents of a peaceful transfer of power from a defeated party to its successor, which I mention now as we are in the middle of an election in 2020. But anyway, so that set the precedent of peaceful transfers of power, which is the way it's supposed to be. So, anywho. Okay, slavery and politics is our next section. Okay, so Jefferson's election to president was aided by the 3/5 clause, which we've talked about, which stated that African Americans in our southern jurisdictions were, not in our southern jurisdictions, but our African American individuals were referred to as constituting 3/5 of a person. So we've talked about that, but so our 3/5 clause supported this transition, okay, and it gave a disproportionate number of electoral votes to southern states, which is what I was getting at. So this aids the election of Thomas Jefferson, okay? So our first Congress, which we've discussed in the previous chapter, so they received petitions calling for emancipation, which will set off a long debate and will culminate whenever we get to the Civil War, okay? So in 1793, Congress adopted a law to enforce the Fugitive Slave Clause. Okay. But so, yeah, this just reiterates that the debate over slavery deeply ingrained in the United States early on, okay? Okay, but so, looking at, turn of the century, early 1800s, there are, and this is not anything new, we've talked about rebellions in the past, but there is another kind of wave of rebellions that goes on. So the most well-known of those is probably the Haitian Revolution, okay, which established Haiti as an independent nation in 1804, and then led to a panic in the United States because there was a fear that there would be uprisings similar to this. There's also Gabriel's Revolution in 1800 in Virginia, which is named after its leader, Gabriel, who was a blacksmith and spoke of the ideals of liberty that were, established during the American Revolution, okay? And the ultimate goal of Gabriel's Revolution, it was allegedly planned to kidnap the governor of Virginia and demand the abolition of slavery. This does not go to plan, and in the end, Gabriel and 25 others were executed for this organization, although nothing happened, okay? So they were executed just for planning, all right? Okay, here we go. Then this takes us to, make sure I'm still on track. Okay, I am. Yes, I am. Okay, this takes us to the Louisiana Purchase, alrighty? Okay, so Thomas Jefferson. He was concerned, let's see, Jefferson's concerned with the territory. Yes, okay, so just this region that we're discussing. Thomas Jefferson is focused on it because access to the Mississippi via New Orleans, which was a trading hub, Jefferson is worried about the control of that area, okay? So specifically New Orleans, okay? He asserted that additional territory would allow the Republic to remain agrarian and therefore virtuous. So his, he campaigns on, this idea of, well, if we have this region, we can continue supporting farmers, okay? And remain agrarian. Okay, so this is 1803, and the region that is purchased from France, which also, is a contributing factor to fears of control of the region. Is it controlled by the French? Is it controlled by the United States? Okay, so this area is purchased from France for $15 million, which would equal approximately $250 million today, which if you look at that area and think about it, that is a bargain, okay, considering. But so, this reached from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada and from the Mississippi River west to the Rocky Mountains and doubled the size of the United States, okay? So, like I said, that's 1803. And then as a, well, like immediately following that, okay, like I said, the size of the United States has doubled. So the first goal of the government is to go explore this new region, okay? This will be done with the Lewis and Clark expedition, all right? So the objective of this expedition was both scientific and commercial, and their goal was to establish a trading route to the Pacific Ocean, and relations. I feel like that's a typo on my part. What does it say here? I don't know what I was trying to say. That's all right. Anyway. Okay, but yeah, they're trying to establish a trading route to the Pacific Ocean. And I really don't know what I was trying to say. Anywho. Okay, so this goes on from 1804 to 1806. It's our journey to the Pacific Northwest. Their group, known as the Corps of Discovery, a group of 50 individuals, and if you check out this map on 239 that shows the Louisiana Purchase, you can see the size of that, of the purchase itself, and then also you can see the path of the Lewis and Clark expedition, where they start, and then their path up the Columbia River, okay? So they set out from St. Louis, which should be on that map you're looking at. Like I said, this is a group of 50 individuals, and so in that group, their main guide and interpreter is a 15-year-old Shoshone woman who is often, we know her as Sacagawea, but the Shoshone people, nation over the last, I heard this within the last 10 years, gave an official statement saying that the proper pronunciation of her name is Sacagawea. So if you look at the slideshow I sent you, I tried to write both of those out phonetically, okay? Sacagawea, not Sacagawea is how I wrote it, okay? So there's something, Sacagawea, okay? So she is their main interpreter and guide. She was married to a French fur trader, which is how she got involved in that. And the group then, like I said, they will work their way up northwest and they will reach the Pacific Ocean via the Columbia River. So if you are familiar with Oregon and Washington, the state border is the Columbia River, and it runs up to Astoria, which is where Goonies takes place. But yeah, so the opening of the Columbia River is at Astoria, and that's your division of Oregon and Washington. So there are markers up whenever you get up there along the way that talk about the expedition. But anyway, so they reach the Pacific, so they are successful in their mission, okay? Alrighty, so that is going from, like I said, 1804 to 1806. And then I skip a little bit of things and move us up to the War of 1812, okay? So, the War of 1812. Alrighty, we have been talking about just ongoing issues between the British and the French. Okay, this was nothing new. So, this war is continuing. Okay. The British Navy resumes impressment in 1803, which is where, remember, they would kidnap soldiers or individuals and force them to serve in the British Navy, okay? So this is resumed in 1803. And then there is a call for war against Britain, okay? There are reports of British support, uprisings supporting the British, of First Americans like Tecumseh, which involved the Shawnee Nation, and then there were also similar uprisings in the Creek and Cherokee nations. Okay, so June of 1812, James Madison asked, past tense I should say, Congress for a declaration of war. Okay, so the United States is very disunited and unprepared for all of this. Yeah, and we will get into war again. And this will become known as the Second War of Independence, okay? And I have another map for you to look at since I just love maps so much. But 245 is our map of the War of 1812. All right, so you can see British occupation, okay? Alrighty, so moving on, after defeating Napoleon in 1814, so this is, I'd said the Napoleonic Wars would be going on through Europe during all of this, okay? So Napoleon's defeated at 1814, and this will lead to the British being able to regroup, okay? They're not focusing on fighting France, shift their sights to the United States, and they then invade the United States. I'm having a hard time talking right now, sorry. Okay, so this happens 1814, like I said. They invade, they seized Washington, D.C., they burned the White House. If you have heard the story of Dolly Madison trying to save the artwork when she was fleeing, it's whenever this was happening, okay? White House is burned. Okay, so first Americans who had sided with the British were defeated. Okay, so going back to Tecumseh, so Tecumseh's killed, and a decisive victory for the United States occurred at the Battle of New Orleans. Remember, New Orleans was our hot spot at the time, okay? Louisiana Purchase, it's a trading hub, okay? So Battle of New Orleans occurs in January, on January 8th, 1815, and this, solidifies a U.S. victory, okay? Okay, and that's my last slide on here. Okay, so that takes us to 1815, and yeah, that is it for Chapter 8. So I will be back for Chapter 9, since we're going in order and all. If you guys have any questions about anything, please let me know. Shoot me an email, and otherwise I will talk to you later. Okay, bye.